Geki. Welcome to another one of my reviews. Today I'm going to review City of Iron, a game that came out in 2012, is designed, illustrated and produced by Ryan Locat, who runs his own one-man company, Red Raven Games. It's a game that was hyped quite a bit before the release date. It has since gone under the radar. It has received some criticisms and is not everywhere as it appeared it would have been when it was on Kickstarter and before it was published. I got a copy after Kickstarter. I discovered it at a convention called ConCon. I played it and I got it. And so I'm here to try to address some of those criticisms, see whether they are justified or not. But before we go into all of that and into my opinion of the game, let's start with a quick overview of what City of Iron is about. So this is the board where the share part of the game takes place. You have your standard score track at the top. You have a player order track here, which works in an original way. At the beginning of each turn, all of the players will bid to determine whether they want to go first, usually, or if they want to go last. And they can pay to force other people to choose whether they want to pay more to come before them in the turn. These are lands that you can gain. I will get to that in a second. But the main thing you will be doing during the game is trying to gain a majority in each of these products. They are very original products. They go from standard engine factories to tentacles, demons in a bottle, weird materials mines, weird materials fields. And the way you will do it is mainly through these cards that you see down here. These are building cards. There are 3 for each player, and they will be refilled every turn. So what you do is you buy these cards and place them in your personal tableau. You will have one starting city that will be built on one starting terrain. You understand that it's basic only because it has a 0 distance. We will see what it means. And this tells you which kind of buildings you can build. Not surprisingly, the basic buildings, that one that will come out earlier, will share one of these traits, and later on, more powerful building will come out that requires something that you do not have on your tableau, like sand. So when you want to build that, you will first have to get one of these, like this edge of the world place that has desert and palm that were not in your original disposition. So you will be conquering more and more of certain goods, like this one gives you 2 turnips and 1 sikra, this kind of weird cow, and so you will move 2 on the corresponding spot, which is down there. But let's say you gain 2 tentacles, you would move up 2. When the scoring turn comes, and there are 3 in the game, the third one ending the game, you will score points only for things in which you have the majority or the second player having the majority. In this case, the tentacles are worth 3 for the first player and 1 for the second player. The other reason you want to gain production is to get money. As you will see here, this is the amount of coins that you get every turn as long as you have the majority in that particular place. So the building part is quite simple. You buy buildings. Some of them require also science, but it's just another kind of currency that you can buy with coins or that can be produced by certain buildings. But most of the times you're just buying buildings and try to get majority over your opponents. What makes the game come alive is that you will need more space, and then as we said, you will have to conquer different lands. and you can attack and conquer foreign cities that are a fast way to get additional productions. So to do all of this, so to do everything that is not just buying buildings, you will use your cards. So each of the players will have a personal tableau, this one, on which his or her cards will be stored. At the beginning of the game, each player will only have 2 civic servants cards and 2 military cards. And they will draw and use them, and then when they finish the deck, they will shuffle and they're ready to start again. What makes this new is its use of deck building. At the end of each turn, you can buy new cards from the offer, and the offer is the same for all players, and it's personal. You will have your entire deck of military and civic cards at your disposal, and at the end of each round you can buy as many as you want, as long as you have the coins. So I could add the sharpshooter to my hand, or the iron soldier that also costs 1 science. But as long as I have resources, I can add as many of them as I want to my hand, and then when I have used them, they go into my discard pile, so that I can use them again if I go through my entire deck. You generally draw 1 card per turn, plus 1 using one of your 3 actions. So things that you can do are draw cards, use cards, buy buildings, attack distant lands, conquer cities. And to attack distant lands or conquer cities, you will do it via cards. The Explorer is the one who allows you to build a new city on a foreign land, and most of the military cards will have attacks, helping you to get lands. This one has a defense of 8. So what you want to do is gather enough distance, which is up here on the upper left corner of all the cards, and use it to either reach distant lands like this one, which has a distance of 8, and this has a very low distance because you also need attack. And you do this, you can steal stuff from other players. When the end of the turn scoring round comes, whoever has the most points wins, after applying some ending bonus for having the most of coins, cards, etc. So in this game there are many strategies, but I will get to that in a second. So now that we are back, first of all, let's talk about the components. As you have probably guessed by seeing the images, the components are very well illustrated and designed. The cardboard is sturdy when it needs to be, the cards are very good quality, the illustrations are simple but very, very nice. They have this steampunk theme, but it is not overdone. It just evokes this alternate history, and there are 4 different races. There are humans, there are toadmans, and there are other kind of humans, and augments, the ones that you saw in the cards during the video presentation of the game. What the game is possibly lacking in illustration art, I cannot really see. There were some cheap criticisms about the auto recycling part of the arts from Empire of the Void, another game of his, but you really don't care when you're playing this game because all of the cards are different. There are certain characters that repeat themselves from one race deck to another, but you never have 2 cards in your hand that look the same, and the illustration is very evocative, and really he paid attention to every detail of the game. What I really like are these imaginative distant lands like the flying island of Sunzar or the Trema desert, always on the flying island, the Balian dunes, and so forth and so on. There are a bunch, they are all different. Even your starting terrains are different in design, although they are the same as effects. So components, absolutely gorgeous, and there is no doubt that the man can draw and can design the game. So let's get into the meat of the game. So first of all, it's an area majority or a majority gaining game. So I think that suffers a little bit with 2, but with 3 or 4 players it works very well. It's smooth. You are a constant tension on trying to get your tokens into good position for the scoring, but even at the end of each turn you want to have majorities to gain more money, and money is of course very important, and so you really want to get those 2 points. The cards are very clever in this because some of them produce 2 resources, some of them produce 3 resources, but when they do produce 3, not only they cost more, but sometimes they are straight up 1 resource, so they give you a powerful boost into your control of that resource. Some other times they split 2 resources of one kind or one of another. You saw it with the turnips and the cow during the demonstration that I gave before. And so you have to choose wisely and keep an eye on other players. One thing that you can do is natch a building that you cannot yet build and keep it. Later on you will have to use 1 more action to build that you would have normally done, but you can maintain the majority by this in this way. So I think the game is playable with 2. I rather play with 3 or 4, but it's not one of those games that I wouldn't play with 2. And if you have seen other of my reviews, you know that there are games that I will not play with a certain number of players. This works with 2 as well. Strategies. One of the criticisms in this game had been that you need to go military. What does it mean? You need to buy military cards that provide you with attacks, so you can get cheap ways of production and steal the same things from other players. And while this is certainly a viable solution, I played 2 games without investing into military in my very first 2 games that I played, and I won both. And it's not just me, it's not just the choices of other players. Attacking is useful, but also opens up the possibility for other players to attack you, because when you conquer those little cities, people can conquer them from you. While if you stay away from military, yes, you will renounce certain ways of getting stuff, but you will be immune to other people's attacks. And at the same time, of course, getting those cards costs money, and getting those cities costs actions, so you can take other ways to victory. I would understand saying that you need distance to win, but again, because distance is involved both in conquering new cities and in discovering new lands, while military is only involved in conquering other cities. But the requirements for the city conquering as far as distance is concerned are very low, so you usually gather around with the cards that you have in the beginning or cards that you buy and that provide you distance or useful actions. So that's also not a problem. Building a lot appears to be then the winning strategy, you may think, because buildings are the core of the games, they provide you with more money, they provide you with production, and yet, yes, you have to buy buildings and you will do that, but these other 2 strategies are other ways to focus on something else that is not buildings. Finally, cards are very nice, but even when they are not providing military or distant cards, they are not essentials. There are a couple that may be considered essential, the ones that allow you to get access to military and distance conquering, but you will get them very easily. They are very cheap, the explorer, the mayor, and so you will not be cut out if you choose to just get those and then focus on something else. Science is another big choice. There are buildings that provide you with science. Science is a currency, and if you don't produce it, it's hard to come by. You have to use cards or money to get it. But again, buying the buildings that provide you with science is not only very expensive, but also not being a production cuts you off of certain source of income, and so that slows you down. So there are different things that you have to take care of, and you cannot ignore any, but at the same time you will not win, you will not have a guaranteed win by using only one of them. So this makes for a very good game, in my opinion. It's a very balanced game. And here about balance, the second criticism comes in. It's about the races. You can play with just the different decks that make basically no difference, they are only cosmetic difference, or you can bring in the special abilities of each race. They will have a special ability mark on their board plus one different special card for each. And while I don't think they are game breaking, it is only because they are not that relevant, but they are indeed unbalanced. There are a couple of races that every time we have discussed using this nations variant have been coveted by all players, so we would have had to implement a bidding mechanism to get the nation distributed, and we didn't want to go through that. So that's maybe something that you may want to consider before playing, if to use this variant or not. But to be fair, we didn't feel the need. There is so much variety inside the cards deck that you don't need the asymmetric starting powers to provide a variable experience. You will choose different cards every time you play, and so each game will be different. Also, there is an included expansion, so to speak, the city expansion, in which there are additional city cards that work a little different from what you find in the very base game. And so that would help you if you are worried about variety. I found the bidding for the first turn a little long for what it adds. Sometimes it would be maybe easier to just go around, because people will be first from time to time, and some other time they will skip it, but it's not a big deal. So the game provides multiple ways to victory, a lot of variety. The learning curve is not that hard. It will take you longer when you first play because you're not familiar with the cards, but since when you buy the cards you can always look through your entire deck, you don't need to know them by heart. So an experienced player, besides just being a little more familiar with the game, will not have a definitive advantage, and there is no need to try and memorize all the cards in the beginning of the game. So this makes for an easiness of entrance, which is surprising considering how thinky the game can become. And while the buildings get cycled and new things get revealed, you are sometimes stuck. So the game can become long. I'd say that with experienced player you stay under the 2 hours, varying from 1 hour and 15 minutes with 2 players to 2 hours with 4 fast players. With slow players or players that have not played before, you should expect at least 2 hours and a half, probably 3 hours. But it is worth it. You will have something to think about during other people's turn. You will have fun looking at the images. So the game is long. The game has nothing super innovative. There is deck building and area majority, but it combines the two in a very clever way. I think the game is fun. I think it will provide for a challenge. It's not for the light gamers, despite the light artwork, and I look forward to the following works by Ryan. I know he is coming out with Ancient World or something like that. I have not tried Empires of the Void. He is also the author of the 2 8 Minutes Empire and 8 Minute Empire Legends games that I like and I hope to review in the future. Let me know if you have any questions about the game or about the review, and I hope you had fun watching.